they went to the Queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Oh, hold on.
Oh, no. Of course.
Every morning without fail, there's always something, man. There's always something. I'm glad you guys are joining us sharp, bright and early at 6:30. Don't forget to set your clocks back 9 minutes so you can be on peasant time. Ron got it. Ron and I grew up in a church that is full of chronically late people. We used to call it Mormon Standard Time, which was 15 minutes late.
Yeah, well, with my family, it's about an hour.
You got one family member who shows up when they're breaking down the chairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, all right, guys. Big news this morning. Can you believe it?
What?
We have breaking news, Ron. It has started.
Oh.
Breaking news that just crossed this moment.
Hold on. Before we get into the anticipation, let's change the sound over. Definitely not AI. This is not an AI-generated show.
This is how you drop breaking news.
Yes. Like this.
Breaking news that just crossed just moments ago. Government sources just confirming to Fox News that federal agents raided the Maryland home of Ambassador John Bolton this morning. One source says that agents are looking for potential classified documents they believe are in his possession. FBI Director Kash Patel tweeting earlier this morning, "No one is above the law. FBI agents on mission." The FBI is not commenting right now on the raid itself. We can confirm Bolton is not under arrest right now. The target this morning was the home. We're going to bring you the latest details as soon as we get those into.
The target was Melania's panty drawer in Mar-a-Lago, but don't worry, Trump's not under arrest. So,
wow,
we got a raid on John Bolton. So let's check into Fox News here because this is literally kind of just breaking and developing this morning.
Learning the FBI agents have raided the Maryland home of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. It happened at 7 a.m. this morning.
Shortly after the raid began, FBI Director Kash Patel posting on X, quote, "No one is above the law. FBI agents on a mission."
David Spunt joins us now with more on this breaking news. Hey, David.
Hey, guys, not much we can say at this point, but information will continue to develop. As you mentioned, about 7 o'clock this morning, FBI agents raided Ambassador Bolton's home. Notable, we're being told by two government sources that they are looking for classified documents as part of a potential leak investigation. We're told that Ambassador Bolton is not in custody. He's not under arrest, but it is notable they are at his Maryland home right now. We don't know how many agents are there. We're waiting to get a picture of the scene coming in right now, but we're told Ambassador Bolton, who was just on TV on another network a couple days ago talking about the Russia-Putin-Trump summit, is now under FBI investigation. Now, I want to be clear, these are long, and we're looking at some live photographs right now in Bethesda. That's clearly the road where Ambassador Bolton lives, and you can see some police cars outside there. Yeah. But, you know, this is going to be a long process. We saw the raid of former Trump advisor Roger Stone's home down in Florida several years ago. Eventually, he went to trial. We saw famously in August of 2022, exactly 3 years ago, a little bit more than 3 years ago, the raid on Mar-a-Lago. That still has
guy
the
wants
FBI
to nuke the whole world. Can't even keep his fence in good shape.
A little bit of a different situation as it was a former president, but it deals with classified documents.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
Too bad. We got our own ads now. John Attackis, good morning. Pony Boy, good morning. And Weedham Boy, same person. Good morning. Sapphire Patriot, good morning. John Attackis said rated at 7 a.m. Friday morning. Yes, it was. And Frazier says CNN is walking all over themselves this morning. I know. Listen to this. This is hilarious. This is now MSNBC's official line with FBI weaponization.
My suspicion is this looks performative and political, and that is highly concerning. The FBI should not be used.
I know. When they performatively threw me in solitary confinement, I was like, all right, great. Where's the, is
well, that was right after the judge sent me my, my response to my letter of support.
You're like, oh, this is performative.
Yeah. Where he was like, well, we do need to make an example out of him. Like, oh, is that what we're doing?
Yeah. So, yeah, this is probably just performative.
As a tool to go after political enemies. And if that's
I want to repeat that. Wait, what's your position?
Political enemies.
Wait, hold on. Again.
Be used as a tool.
I got to get the full sentence.
The FBI should not be used as a tool to go after political enemies. And if that's...
I'm glad we can agree. You're a little late to the party, though. So pendulum's going to swing back and pop you in the forehead at least once.
We're moving. It should alarm all Americans because the FBI has incredible capabilities and powers. And you would not want to see the FBI transformed into a special police, the type of thing we've seen in the past in Soviet bloc countries or in, dictatorships across the Middle East and other places. We don't want it to be a mukhabarat or something like that. Oh. So it's really concerning. Hopefully that's not the case. My suspicion is this looks...
we basically have kind of like a mystery science theater.
Okay, that little thing at the end, that's just like confirmed this guy's a total douchebag. You know what I mean?
This is like mystery science theater where we sit and we just like make fun of these. Like, I wonder if this guy doing this hit, who's totally serious, we don't want the FBI to become some kind of Gestapo, KGB, like Nusafafa or whatever word it is. We don't want him to be, and we're like... KGB got its lessons from the FBI. You know what I mean? Are you kidding? CIA trained Mossad. Like, we don't want our police to be part of like some kind of political thing. Martin Luther King Jr. Hello. We have credible information that the CIA killed a sitting president. We don't want intelligence services weaponized. That's their whole point. That's the whole point. It's like we want to set up a Steven Crowder, like, prove me wrong, right? Yeah. Again, one of the things that I constantly keep in mind as a theme is we don't want to become the things we hate. So here's I'm clapping, Bolton getting raided. Like, yeah, go get Bolton. Finally, somebody. Right. I mean, part of that's a little hurt feelings from me and my friends all kind of having to deal with this for the last 4 years, right? But at the same time, we don't want to become the things we hate. Right.
But it's also not even the same thing.
They're not the same thing. Just like these two people here don't think that they're the same thing. So in fairness to the peasants, because we're going to see this today, remember, when you empower the government with awesome, powerful tools, you can't always control how they use that power in the end. Okay. Yeah. The greatest trick the Democrats ever pulled was convincing black people to self-segregate. And we are now seeing in our society the full circle of racist to woke and woke to racist.
When me and Brad first met, I didn't think we'd get along, but turns out we kind of agree on everything. Your racial identity is the most important thing. Everything should be looked at through the lens of race.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Damn. Okay, so for the audio listeners here, what you're looking at is you've got one gentleman with a shirt that says woke and another gentleman with a shirt that says racist, and they just happen to agree on everything.
Have a lot of opinions about people of color, even though we barely know any.
I say colored people, but as long as we're classifying them, we both think minorities are a united group who think the same and act the same.
And vote the same. You don't want to lose your black card. Sorry, I don't know. I just think we should
roll back discrimination law so we can hire based on race again. Jinx, now you owe me a Coke. Hey, tell them what you told me yesterday.
White actors should only do voices for white cartoon characters.
I've been saying that for years. Stick to your own.
Us white people, we have so much privilege.
I agree. It is a privilege to be white. Ask him about interracial dating.
All I said is that black men who date white women have internalized racism, and white men that date ethnic women are fetishizing them.
Guys against interracial dating now. Like, am I being pranked? Did Boomer put you up to this?
Ugh, you know that taco place is white owned?
White people should be making white foods like Kraft macaroni and cheese, no seasoning, not even salt. It's like he's a mind reader. I mean, I've been pushing for segregation forever, and my man does what?
I created an improv comedy show exclusively for ethnic people.
Guy segregates comedy on my birthday.
White people need to stop wearing dreadlocks and they need to stop appropriating black people's music.
Shaved heads and country music, the way God intended.
You know all white people are racist.
I'm listening.
Even if you have a black wife or a black friend group, you're still really racist.
You know, we just kicked a guy out of the organization for having a black girlfriend, but if you can promise me he's still really racist, we'll consider letting him back in. Black people should only shop at black businesses.
I guess the only thing we really disagree about is I think white people are the root of all evil.
But what did I tell you, though? If we can narrow that down to a certain group of tiny-hatted white people, I think we can come to an understanding.
Technically, I don't consider Jewish people white.
Neither do I.
Okay.
What?
So that's
That was pretty funny.
I remember when there was a university that had like a petition from black students that wanted their own spaces. And I'm like, hold on. I feel like they just like slowly convince you to self-segregate. You know what I mean? All this fighting over desegregation, and all of a sudden you're like, we want our own space. It's like, you had that. You had your own drinking fountains, for goodness sake. I'm just kidding. Everybody knows I'm not racist. Okay. But the hypocrisy in it all is hilarious. And we are seeing some of that now. And we are seeing there's going to be the accusations on, oh, now you're weaponizing government. Look, this is why we have to look at each individual situation and look at the evidence and decide for ourselves. Right? Fair enough?
Yeah.
So we're going to go through some pretty fun stuff today.
Oh, no. And now you're going to be like, here's one of the worst examples possible.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's just the measuring stick by which you measure is the one by which you'll be judged. Okay. So a lot of these people where we're going to be clapping as peasants, where we're going to clap the loudest for justice is when a hypocrite gets brought to justice. For example, John Bolton's getting his house raided right now, right? And this is the woke racist thing, right? He's like, oh, that guy's racist. Yeah, well, you're doing the thing that you're claiming the racist is doing, Mr. Woke Man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So John Bolton here, who's like, oh, Trump, he's taking classified documents. That's interesting. Seems to be maybe the reason your house is being raided this morning.
Given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
There's a couple of different ways that people think about this, and people who are not friendly to the president who think about what's happened here. And one of them is, Donald Trump, master thief, criminal, running some kind of elaborate conspiracy to bring things out of the White House and keep them secret for potentially for political or financial gain. There are other people who his attitude is Trump is chaotic. He's careless. He's not that smart. He took these things almost by mistake, and now he's basically stamping his feet and saying they're mine. I don't want to give them up. Give me a sense of where you think the truth lies with respect to Trump's intelligence, carelessness, and the degree to which he might have brought motive to bear on taking these documents out of the White House and keeping them for this long at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it's very hard to speculate on motive other than that he liked cool things. He saw things so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them, and not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that crossed his desk. Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
I love how he acts like Bolton's like, these classified documents are just shiny things, and he just likes to collect shiny things. Why do I have a feeling that's John Bolton's problem? It's like, hey, here's a classified document of, something that happened overseas in Iraq, bomb Iraq. The yellow cake. I got the yellow cake. I'm going to keep that for luck. I have a feeling that was a moment of projection where he's like, I just like these fancy cardstock documents with classified stamped all over them. Makes me feel important. He's probably got them in his house.
He's probably got paperweights.
And the hilarious thing about the whole Donald Trump Mar-a-Lago rage, which we learned yesterday definitively out of Kash Patel's mouth, is there was no predicate for that raid. Now, oddly enough, the FBI is having a real problem with staff because the guy who actually led the Mar-a-Lago raid was flying Kash Patel around in the FBI jet. So, he's
don't forget that part.
Yeah. So, he's there for all the private conversations. He's got to take his little pilot break and go sits in the back with Kash Patel, hears about what they're doing. Kash Patel apparently was completely oblivious to the fact that his pilot in his FBI jet just did a little stint as a field agent raiding Donald Trump's house. Now, they did fire him when this came to light, but, only after 6 months of being in on all the secrets.
Yeah.
Like, the FBI is an intelligence organization. The FBI is clearly weaponized, and the FBI, it doesn't work for the left. It doesn't work for the right. It works for the FBI.
It makes me wonder how many other people surrounding, the president's men are FBI,
It's
like the
legion.
waiter.
So here's the thing with this. Laura Loomer is out there on a mission trying to find all these old Biden admin and Obama admin and find him in the staff. They're everywhere. She's the one. And Kyle Serafim, shout out to him too. I think it was a combination of him. And there's a handful of these outside actors that are looking at personnel decisions in the White House and kind of raising the flag. And it has led to a lot of firings, people randomly getting let go. But there's also been a couple moments of entrenchment. For example, there was a guy, I can't remember, it was Jennings. There was an FBI agent that was totally involved in all the J6 things. A lot of J6ers who dealt with him directly felt like he was, animistic and very mean about it. Well, somehow he kept his job, and Dan Bongino and Kash both gave the excuse, well, he knows where the bodies are buried and he was just doing his job and he pushed back up into a limit. Well, now he's fired because turns out, he probably didn't show him where the bodies were buried, and he probably wasn't really just, doing his job for the J6 thing. He was really into it. So they did end up ultimately firing him, but this isn't until they made him like third in charge of the FBI while they're trying to clean up the FBI, by the way, which, if we know anything about how that goes down, it doesn't really.
Let's give a little grace.
So, give a little grace. Yeah. You can have 14 months of grace in federal prison while we figure things out. How about that? We'll just eye for an eye, tooth
I'm
for
okay
tooth
with
here.
that.
All right. So this is John Solomon breaking, again, the cascade of things that are being declassified, little tidbits of information we're getting here and there. It's filling in the picture.
All right, 3 FBI offices look at the Clinton Foundation for Corruption. They get shut down. In fact, the actual line in the FBI notes about this is the Deputy Attorney General told us to, quote, shut it down. Then 3 years later, the IRS criminal agents start to develop a tax criminal case against the foundation, and the same thing happens. Shut it down, and then the excuses are, we don't have any resources at the IRS to look at whether a foundation was violating its tax obligation.
Did you hear that? The IRS's reason for shutting down the investigation into the Clinton Foundation was, we don't have the resources to investigate it.
Shut up.
Yeah, they wrote that down. Oh, they're too big. They're too big to be investigated. If we pull the plug on that one, the whole bathtub might drain.
What if we hired, say, 80,000
IRS agents? You think we could take on the Clinton Foundation?
Maybe.
I know. And it's just one foundation. They went after like 1,600 January 6 defendants. And you figure every raid takes times 10, times 20 agents involved in those cases. Like, we're busy.
Yeah, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
I know. Again, we're just going to measure by the standard by which they measure, okay?
Is that possible that the IRS didn't have resources?
Man, I wish it was, because we got audited after Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island sent a letter to the chief of the IRS to say audit conservative groups. So I don't know. I can personally tell you they've got resources to audit nonprofits, because we were on the fuzzy end of that lollipop a couple years ago. So look, this is just nonsense. The Internal Revenue Service and the deep state that runs the place is just rotten to the core. It's staffed by left-wing ideologues, whether it's in the C-suite within the agency or within the bowels of the agency, the folks that do the work day in, day out. It is just a rotten agency staffed by rotten people. And until someone kind of grabs these folks by the lapel, shakes them, and runs them out the door, we're not going to get any change there. It's unfortunately an agency that thrives off of the process of punishing activists, people who are engaged in political speech, and using the tools that they have at the IRS of audits and lawsuits to kind of beat these folks into submission. And it's shameful. It's been going on for decades, and it doesn't seem to be changing.
Yeah, I know one of the things that, we talked about on the show a couple days ago is it was officially revealed by Ed Martin. Yeah, so the IRS, in fact, was auditing January 6ers at a disproportionate rate. I know! I've been including that in my elevator speech for 4 years now. Yeah, thank you for the cognition. Sometimes I felt like a few of us were the crazy ones. Like, did you get IRS issues? Yeah, I did. Did you get IRS issues? Yeah, I did.
Did you get your letter from the IRS?
Seems thematic.
Your weekly letter?
Did you get your bank account closed down? Yeah, I did. Okay, so Laura Loomer, speaking of the IRS.
Hold on. What's the fuzzy end of a lollipop?
I don't know.
I've never heard that before.
I don't know. I heard that just like, okay, fuzzy end of that lollipop. Laura Loomer has a scoop here. She says the 3 IRS officials identified as Lois Lerner's henchmen who participated in the weaponization of the IRS, but are still somehow working inside the Trump administration. You guys, this is going back to the Obama administration. This is the second time Trump's been in charge and hasn't cleaned out the people that went after the Tea Party associations, have all been placed on administrative leave. So finally, they've been placed on administrative leave by Scott Bessent. IRS sources tell me 3 officials placed on administrative leave came as a direct result of my investigative reporting. They also told me the Trump administration appreciates my efforts in helping to dismantle the weaponization of the federal government. The 3 officials placed on administrative leave are Holly Paz, Robert Coy, and Elizabeth Kastenberg. I can also confirm that the 4th IRS official, radical leftist Anthony Sacco, an attorney at the IRS's Office of Chief Counsel, has also been placed on administrative leave as of last night. Holly Paz is an Obama donor who helped run Lois Lerner's targeting operation of conservative nonprofits and GOP donors and now oversees auditing pass-through businesses. Robert Coy, the Democrat, helped, which, by the way, what's significant about that, auditing pass-through businesses? The Bidens had 27 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get past the people like this who are like, oh, this pass-through entity, grandma with her rental property, this one's getting audited. But Hunter Biden and his 24 shell agencies, let it go. We don't have the resources to look at all that.
Yeah.
Robert Coy helped down the original crackdown on conservative nonprofits and now runs the entire division where it all happened. And Elizabeth Kastenberg, an acting director of the IRS, who admitted targeting was purely political. I have a feeling these names right here are going to be like Robert Coy being in charge of that division. Probably had my file run through it. Sources at the IRS have also confirmed to me that at least 3 more high-level IRS officials have also been placed on administrative leave. Those officials are Karen Howard, executive director of the Office of Online Services at IRS, Bridget Roberts, chief direct file at IRS, and Elizabeth Askey, chief of IRS Independent Office of Appeals. I can also exclusively report that Scott Bessent, who is at the current acting commissioner of the IRS, was at the IRS headquarters today when he had a meeting with IRS leadership. The meeting focused on implementation of OBBB and the de-weaponization of the IRS, which is being led by Joe Ziegler and Gary Shapley. Those are the 2 investigators that went after Hunter Biden and then were basically fired or, tortured by the IRS for doing that. One is a gay man and the other is a Democrat. Or I think they're both Democrats. And one happens to be gay. This is Bessent's second visit to the IRS this week alone. Hopefully the administration turns into full-blown terminations. We can't afford to play games. So interesting thing about this is Laura Loomer's not too happy with Scott Bessent. Week before this, she said, despite what the fake news keeps peddling, I had nothing to do with Billy Long's firing from the IRS. That was the handiwork of Soros disciple Scott Bessent, likely done to shield his old boss and the Democrat machine he's been serving his entire career. I have it on good authority that Billy Long was ready to implement massive personnel changes in the IRS in the coming weeks by removing Obama and Biden operatives who weaponized the IRS on Lois Lerner. If Secretary Bessent actually respected the will of the voters, he'd be cleaning the house of the IRS, not protecting the same Obama-Biden loyalists who weaponize it against them. So anyways, she's not too big fan of Scott Bessent, but Scott Bessent did come in and ended up putting those people on administrative leave. And Laura Loomer's like, why put them on administrative leave and why not just fire them outright? Fuzzy end of the lollipop, a saying that is right up there with when I was in prison. When I got the fuzzy end of that lollipop, I think that's like, it just reminds me of like an old lollipop that's been in your pocket without the wrapper. And it's like, here.
Okay. Okay. I get that.
So that's good news. Okay. So then we had other breaking news yesterday, which was a huge deal. CNN was super excited to report on this one.
Well, I'm not Wolf. I have been skeptical of the Attorney General's case for a long time. I'm on record saying that this is a huge win for Donald Trump any way you cut it. And this is a stinging rebuke to the Attorney General, Letitia James.
So what happened yesterday was the New York Appeals Court overturned the $500 million judgment against Donald Trump based on overvaluing his mortgages and where the banks came in. They're like, no, we didn't lose a dollar. We did great business with them and we'd love to do more. And they're like, you're a victim. Okay. So he just beat that case.
Finding here, it's
the financial fine part of it.
A long, complicated ruling. But the bottom line is, while the finding of liability against Donald Trump can stand for now, at least, the damages award, which started at $350 million with interest, gets up close to $500 million. That is thrown out. And the core reason for that ruling, according to the judges, is essentially that there was not enough of a showing here that there were actual victims. And just to refresh people's memories, this is the civil fraud lawsuit brought by the Attorney General. The core allegation is that Donald Trump habitually overvalued his own assets when he was trying to get bank loans from banks and other lenders. And essentially, the argument that Donald Trump made below that has now had resonance in the appeals court is you're talking about very sophisticated, quote unquote, victims. These are billion-dollar banks that made the loans, got repaid on the loans by Donald Trump with interest, and actually profited to the tune of millions of dollars. So it's not the typical type of fraud case where you have somebody stealing money from other people or ripping off unknowing consumers. So this ruling by the appeals court is monumental. It was also very unusual in that it took them nearly a year to reach this decision. As Caitlin Polans just said, the next step is going to be to go up to the highest court in the state, the Court of Appeals in New York State.
Is Wolf going to say anything?
Shit.
So I got a little something to say about this.
Because Wolf like a year or two ago was like, breaking news, Trump is guilty. And now he's like, go ahead.
So this story kind of highlights something to me. You have a year-long whatever, and then you have this case that gets overturned. Well, there was so much noise and so many people making so much noise about this case that it had to go before the court, right? And then when it gets thrown out because they can't find anybody who's injured.
No victim
anywhere.
This is why I believe my transcripts were altered. Did I hurt, harm, injure, or threaten you? No. Okay, well, can we strike the assault from
It just points to me how much of this is
kabuki theater.
Yeah, it's just so much kabuki theater.
My wife and I were having this discussion yesterday. She was in court and she was like, it's like they're just reading a script. I'm like, yeah. In Atlas Shrugged and Ayn Rand, right? This is written in the 1940s and 50s. And so there's no fault divorce. So divorce is a big deal. And two of the characters get a divorce in this book. And, the wealthy magnate, Hank Reardon, ends up paying his lawyer to pay the judge and to pay off the other counsel to basically get this divorce granted. Right. And so they show up into court and these lawyers got their suits and the judges take it very serious and they read the script, blah, 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 and they say their magic words and their incantations and their spells. And they all look at each other like, we good? Did we get all the things needed on the record? And then the judge grants the divorce and they all walk out and they look like, we just did something official and legal. And he's like, I paid you. I bribed you. You guys act like, and then they want me like I'm complicit because, we did it legally, right? Nobody did this unlawful. And he's like, no, I bribed you. He's like, you guys want me to like vindicate this behavior. And I'm like, I only did this because you're disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of how it feels. It's like, yeah, they went through the motions and they got their conviction with no evidence. Well, then what were we doing? Why did we even need the trial? Why didn't you just declare him guilty on day one? It's the same thing with the Mackey case for posting a meme. No victims.
And sometimes this kabuki theater, it's played by both parties.
Oh yeah, so, this is why I put the woke race
and I didn't just mean both R&D parties. I mean just both parties to the suit or the whatever's going on in the courtroom. And sometimes Trump will lean into these things, in order to have his side of the story come out better.
Yeah, no, he plays the game.
Oh yeah,
my tack,
that's what I'm trying to say.
My tack was I wasn't playing the game. I wasn't given an inch. I'm not even going to participate by filing motions. Right. I'm not even going to participate by defending myself.
Right. So when I call this kabuki theater, I'm not trying to exonerate any party of it. Like Everybody's guilty in this thing.
Oh, yeah. Everybody who touched it.
Ugh.
So Mike Davis has this little warning for Letitia James, because this is from before. Okay. But, she was threatening that, Trump's coming in, but we're still going to prosecute and persecute him. Of course, now she's in the hot seat.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
Let me just say this.
I hope they're not. I mean, we're 7 months in and we're just getting around to John Bolton as the starter.
I know.
I mean, really?
And some other staffers.
I was kind of hoping maybe you'd go for low hanging fruit like Hillary Clinton first. I thought maybe opening raid Hillary Clinton. Yes, we're off to the races. Instead, it was John Bolton. It's like you took out the rhino Republican-y kind of guy. I know he's not
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, he's kind of persona non grata in the Republican and Democrat Party, but seriously, we went for John Bolton first.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the lawfare, in what really truly is a coordinated effort, is still continuing against Trump and his admin and the people to help facilitate his return to government, including Alina Abba, who is Trump's attorney up in New Jersey. So the drama with that was she gets appointed as the attorney. 120 days runs up, and for some reason, the mechanism means now the court can either confirm her to continue going on or replace her. They chose to not confirm her and replace her with a first assistant who's some Democrat. So then Bondi came in and fired the Democrat and then reinstated Alina Abba as now a recess appointment or interim appointment. Well, now a court in New Jersey, some appeals court, which has 17 judges on it, 15 of whom were appointed by Obama and Biden, then has just confirmed that she has no authority. She's not the U.S. attorney, and anybody prosecuting under her has potentially no authority, which would then potentially overturn all the cases in New Jersey.
Now, hold on. I'm a little bit confused. So the first bit that she was in, it was like a temporary status, right?
Yes, acting.
Okay. And
acting
then if they have 120 days that she can be in that status, and then they either have to confirm or kick her out.
Yeah, or extend it through some type of recess appointment, but the court apparently has some say in it, and they booted her.
And the Democrats tried to pull a quote-unquote fast one.
Yes, and slip in a Democrat.
Right.
Well, Pamp Bondi just fired the Democrat and then put Alina Abbott as the first seat, and then when they fired the Democrat, Alina Abbott went right back to the top. So she's like, ha ha.
Right. So I think she's there legitimately then, isn't she?
Well, she was, but now this court yesterday came out and ruled that she's not there legitimately, and it violates some, hook stipulation in some statute somewhere. Okay. And so now she's kind of out. Well, Alina Abba was on TV last night because the whole problem centers around this blue slip thing. New Jersey has got Cory Booker, and I can't remember the other senator. And typically, when you do the U.S. attorneys and judges, they have to be, even if it's from the other party, like if you're Republican and president, you're appointing Republicans, you get the New Jersey senators who are Democrats to give what's called the blue slip, which is like, okay, there's a Republican, but they're moderate enough, we'll let them through. So it's like you always have the home senators get the veto vote, a single veto vote. It's a tradition. It's a Senate thing. It's not a law. And Trump is like, get rid of that nonsense. That's how we end up never being able to change these blue states, is because the senators have this pocket veto. And that's what they're doing with Alina Abba. Cory Booker and the other New Jersey senator will not meet with her. And Chuck Grassley is honoring the totally treasonous, traitorous, this is my Spartacus moment, Cory Booker, and not allowing Alina Abba to go to the floor for a confirmation vote.
Sean, it's been real in New Jersey. I will tell you this. Number one, I was the nominee to become the U.S. attorney. And Cory Booker and Andy Kim, who I have never to this day spoken to in my life, despite my attempts to meet them, have truly, truly done us a disservice. And frankly, same with Senator Grassley, by holding up a traditional blue slip, not a law, and not allowing a lot of the president's picks to go through and be voted on by Senate. I didn't even get to that point. Then fast forward. It goes to the judges. 17 federal judges in the state of New Jersey, 15 of which are Obama and Biden appointed, that just like, frankly, we saw with Tish James, tried to use their seat for political motivation. I am the pick of the president. I am the pick of Pam Bondi, our attorney general, and I will serve this country like I have for the last several years in any capacity. You might try and change my title. You might try and fight me. But just like today with New York, we will win. We always do. It just takes time. But it's disturbing what we're seeing. It's not surprising, but it's disturbing. They think they have a voice for 5 minutes. They try and be activists. And Pam Bondi called it like it is. The attorney general said it today. We will not fall to rogue judges. We will not fall to people trying to be political when they should just be doing their job, respecting the president. And you can't get rid of the president. Almost 100 million people voted for him, and he is still and will be forever the 45th and 47th president of the United States.
Wait, what? What did she just say? Did you catch the last sentence?
No.
How many people voted for Donald Trump?
I don't know. Replay it.
All right. We're going to Grok on this one. Grok. Or how many... Jeez, I'm going to capitalize it. People in the U.S. voted for Donald... Was that a shooting star?
Yeah.
Donald Trump in the 2024 election. I don't think it was 100 million.
No.
But I'm wondering if maybe they know the vote totals now. Like, wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be crazy.
They're like, yeah, we thought we were squabbling 77 million. So,
yeah.
You know, she's only 23 million shy. I feel like we don't call 3 4. You know what I mean? Like, we don't say when you have 3/4, we don't say you have a whole. You know, like
right.
It's 77 million. It's not 100 million. Or did she say over 100 million people voted?
I don't know.
Let's just put that on the. We're gonna wait to see as the election stuff comes out if we start to find out these algorithms might have switched more votes than we think.
Yeah.
The man on the street interviews, Jimmy Fallon. One of the things that gave me a lot of confidence when I was in prison, the show that I enjoyed listening to the most, that gave me the most sense of relief and sense that some form of sanity might return to us. Believe it or not, it was Jimmy Fallon's show, Fox Across America. It would come on at 9 o'clock at night. So 9 o'clock at night was basically when, was it 9 or 8? Didn't matter. It was basically we had count.
Was this Jimmy Fallon?
Jimmy Fallon.
I don't know who that is.
I know. Nobody does. He's the funniest man on TV. I'm telling you. He's hilarious. So Jimmy Fallon, he does like one Saturday show for Fox, and then he does a radio show.
Okay.
But he's a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian, and he's a taxi driver from New York. So he's hilarious. He is a peasant. Okay?
So he's got a lot of material.
He's got a lot of material. He's a peasant, though.
Okay.
Like his whole thing is he's like, I'm giving you the inside scoop. Like they took me out of a taxi cab and gave me a radio show. And now I get to go to the bar where CNN and MSNBC, they're totally fake and disingenuous, you know? And he's just got a really funny show because it's a comedy show. So I'd listen to Jimmy Fallon. He's the one who's like, listen, the media's trying to tell you this, but that's not the truth. And he'd go out and do his cab driving.
Okay.
So anyways, he'd do Man on the Streets and like in Times Square or whatever. And he'd interview 87 people. And he's like, I interviewed 87 people and there were 2 Biden supporters. And he's like, we're in New York. Where are the Biden supporters? Like they don't walk on the streets. They only stay in the high rise. You know, he's like, there's something going on. So when I would listen to his show, it always gave me a big respite because I felt like he was cutting through the noise. When I listened to Sean Hannity, I'm like, okay, what is his deep state handler telling him to say? Right. And trying to pick through it. Okay. With Jimmy Fallon, I was like, the handlers hadn't quite gotten to him yet.
Yeah.
You know, if you watch Black Mirror, there's an episode where some guy gets all upset at the system and he ends up like lashing out. And what the system does is it takes it and they gives him an hour-long show where he can lash out and that gets other people riled up. But then when the show ends, they just keep doing their little 9 to 5 thing.
Oh, that sounds like real life.
It's like Alex Jones. It's a pressure outlet. Like if a trucker can just listen to a couple hours of Alex Jones every day, he can get through the day. Right. But if you don't have an Alex Jones outlet, then eventually the trucker himself is going to start, you know, like,
right.
So that's the thing with Jimmy Fallon. I was like, well, maybe he's just the outlet. Right. They're letting
the rage sink.
Yes. So John Solomon was on, but I loved listening to his show. It came on at night. We would do count. And that's when, I'd already called my wife and it was time to wrap it up and go to bed and, avoid the nighttime shenanigans that happen in a prison. So get to your nice, safe place. And I'd put my headphone in and I'd, go to sleep and I'd listen to Jimmy Fallon and it was very relaxing. So I have a special spot in my heart for him because I looked forward to his show every day. I hated the weekends when his show wasn't on.
Yeah, it's too bad
on the
we don't
weekends.
have a
You know
clip.
what I had to listen to on the weekends in the same time slot? Law enforcement radio.
Ugh.
Do you know how depressing it is to be in prison and listen to a bunch of cops complain about putting people in prison their whole lives? It was so messed up. We have PTSD. So do I. That was frustrating.
It helps you identify with the guards. Like, oh, they have it so rough.
I've always thought they should.
They have to watch us.
They should really have like a prison broadcast radio. Like, I really think they should run prisons more like a university campus, right?
Yeah.
And you should have like the paper editor and all this stuff. Like, I think there's
Like
a lot.
Bukele?
I don't know what he's doing down there. I think he's just holding them. Okay. But like, I could see the prison where I was at, where if you had like a couple guys that were good writers that would have like a newspaper editorial staff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be like real
But this
world
Bukele
experience.
thing, they had like workshops where you could go, work and learn life skills. I'm 100% sure that place is a sweatshop.
Oh, dude. In prison, it's called Unicor. So Unicor is the private company that comes in and the prisoners make all the military uniforms. Prisoners make all the cots that are in prison are made by prisoners. And they do, there's tons of stuff that they do. They do food packaging and like some unbelievably ridiculous amount of food in the grocery store is packaged by federal prisoners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people don't know this. So companies like ramen will pay the prisoners to package ramen noodles.
Okay.
They don't make the ramen noodles, they just package them or whatever. I don't know if ramen's one of those brands, but there's stuff like that. I know that there was a Chinese inmate who sued the United States of America because he was forced to make Milwaukee gloves, work gloves, like Milwaukee, the brand that competes with DeWalt.
Yeah.
When he was in prison in China, they were making Milwaukee gloves, which is funny because American inmates were making some other glove brand that was getting shipped to China. So we were trading each other prisoner inmates with a name brand. Okay. So he was suing America and Milwaukee for essentially engaging in slave labor in China to make the gloves that we're buying here. And it was like, I got news for you, buddy. We're doing the same thing. Our Shinto gloves are getting shipped to you. Okay? Same patterns. I'm being dead serious about this. But you go into Unicorn, it's these huge warehouses.
Like when you call it slave labor, I'm not sure what you can call it anything else.
It's 13th Amendment. It literally says slavery is outlawed unless you're convicted of a crime.
What? Here we are.
I would tell the guard when I'd show up at the wood shop, I'm here to start my 13th Amendment assignment.
It's so funny.
It's not.
I know, but the way that you approach it is so funny.
Oh, yeah, dude. If you don't look at it with humor, you can only look at it with tears. Tragedy and comedy are like kissing cousins. Take your pick which one you're going to look at.
But if I was the guard and you came in and said that, I couldn't help but smile.
Oh, dude, this guard was fun. In fact, I don't know if he's allowed to have contact with me because I don't know, but someday I'm going to try to reach out to him. But he was a huge supporter, okay? Huge MAGA guy. And the election happened. So, they call the election at night. So he's always asking, do you think you guys will get pardons? Da, 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 da. So at this point, I was now orderly over all of facilities. So I'm like the inmate that's in charge of all of the facilities, carpentry, HVAC, welding, plumbing. I don't know, there's probably some other, general maintenance.
This is so funny, Taylor. You're like in charge of the freaking everything.
I was the inmate that was in charge of all of facilities. Okay?
You sound like a character from some Hollywood movie.
No, I'm just Taylor.
I know.
You drop me into prison, I'm going to run the place. Okay?
Yeah,
I was one step away from basically replacing the Aryan Brotherhood in there. So, just kidding. So, but I was in charge of facilities. I was the orderly. And so I could walk into the director's office. Like, I'm the one who had to go change his garbage. I'm the one who had to make his copies. I'm the one who had to do data entry for him. And so I was constantly, actually, they didn't really let me touch the computers very much. But I was the one who was constantly like in their business. Like, Does that make sense? Like, I made coffee for the director, the guy who's like in charge of the entire building and answers only to the warden. I was his B word. Okay? So, but that did, So anyway, so I was running facilities. So the election happens and I come into the wood shop, which is part of facilities, and it's where I had started working. And I come into the wood shops, and the guard that I really liked is in his office with 3 or 4 other guards and like all these other people. And I'm walking pretty hot because I'm like, Trump just won. So I walk down into the wood shop, and he's sitting there. He's got this red hair. He's sitting there with these other guards. And I just like poke my, like I walk into his door frame and I poke my head in like this with a huge smile. And he just looks up at me and just starts giggling and laughing in front of all these other guards. I smile, and then I just retreat and walk back and go do my job. Totally unspoken. Like, I'm going home, buddy. Okay. So anyways, this is John Solomon talking about a smoking gun that they had released yesterday.
Is this the smoking gun?
Well, it's something pretty hot. I'll say that. Listen, you have now the former general counsel, the former chief lawyer to James Comey saying, I leaked classified information. He tells federal agents and prosecutors, and I did so at the instruction of James Comey's chief of staff, who told me James Comey authorized me to go do this. We now have a really significant evidence trail that James Comey may have had national security information leaked to the American public just before the election, putting his finger potentially on the scale of the election. And what's important about this is that knowing and willful leaks like this, if they have a negative effect on the national interest, the security of the country, they can be prosecuted up to 10 years, which makes this October 2016 leak that the FBI was able to, that the investigators and prosecutors able to confirm, still prosecutable until next October of 2026. Pam Bondi said, I just heard what she said. She said in the show today, no one should be allowed to jeopardize national security. There will be accountability. Kash Patel saying that this was a stain on the FBI and one that now has to be fully transposed. When you look at the investigation, Sean, which, by the way, occurred, a lot of it occurred during Trump's first term in office, really weak work by prosecutors and people working on this. They had a chance to go get emails that would show what Comey and his people were talking about. They didn't go secure them. They didn't bring a lot of people before the grand jury. There is room for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel right now to open a criminal investigation, get new evidence, and help the American people see just how bad this might have been.
Is this part 2? Because there was the issue of the Columbia professor. Was that classified material as well?
Sure. Yeah, listen, I want to credit Attorney General Bondi and Director Kash Patel because I made a request to have this information unredacted. It was redacted in the first production. We saw the stuff about Mr. Richmond. We saw the stuff about Adam Schiff. Right? We know that's the other person who was identified as likely authorizing illegal national security leaks. But this was originally redacted, and the Attorney General went to the mat for us to go get this information so we can see it. And when you see it now, you see its significance. Remember, James Comey was questioned astutely by Senator Chuck Grassley in the Judiciary Committee, May 3rd, 2017. Were you ever an anonymous source? No. Did you ever ask someone to be an anonymous source? No. Did you ever authorize a leak of classified information or declassify something so it could go to a reporter? Never. No. Those words are now going to potentially be looked at as a potential obstruction of Congress. If this statute of limitations and the possibility of a conspiracy case, James Comey faces a potentially very serious matter right now.
Congress. The obstruction of Congress charge that he would be charged with in this case is USC 18-15-12. The charge I was charged with, obstructing an investigation of Congress by destroying a document, tampering with a witness, or withholding information. Hello! These people are going to be measured with the stick by which they measured. They threw that charge around while they themselves were guilty of it. Over and over again, man. Now, he mentioned James Baker. James Baker was the conduit for the leaking. And James Baker was like, well, I did the illegal leaking because I was told to by James Comey. So who's James Baker? He's a key figure in all of this. James Baker is often referred to as Jim Baker, has an extensive career primarily in law enforcement, national security, intelligence policy, and related fields, spanning government, private sector, academia, and media roles. Below is a comprehensive chronological list of all of his professional provisions. He started out as a federal prosecutor, fraud section, criminal division, U.S. Department of Justice, 1990 to 96, attorney staff member, Office of Intelligence Policy and Review, 96 to 2001, counsel for intelligence policy and the head of Office of Intelligence Policy and Review, 2001 to 2007. Then he became a fellow at the Institute of Politics, John Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. Then he became a lecturer at Harvard, same time in 2007. Then he became assistant general counsel for national security at Verizon Business, 2008 to 2009. Then he became the associate deputy attorney general, focusing on national cybersecurity in the U.S., from 2009 to 2011, then the Associate General Counsel at Bridgewater Associates, 2012 to 2013. Then he became the Associate Counsel at the FBI from 2014 to 2018. Then, when he was fired from the FBI, he became a visiting fellow at governance studies at the Brookings Institute. Now, some of these names, Harvard, Brookings, some of these other agencies, these are all agencies that deal with censorship, that deal with gathering up your information. This guy is a free speech something, anti or pro, hard to know. So he became general counsel of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, 2014 to 2018, fellow at Brookings, distinguished visiting fellow at the Lawfare Institute. Projection much? Lecturer of law at Harvard again, then national director of national security and cybersecurity at the R Street Institute, then a legal analyst at CNN, then deputy general counsel for vice president of policy at Twitter. But he was fired from that position amid controversies related to content moderation and internal document releases. So basically what you're saying here is from the time he left being a criminal prosecutor for the fraud section at criminal division, he then immediately went into intelligence. And it took 20 years for it to catch up to him. You think when he was at Twitter, that's the first time he didn't release information? You think when he was at Twitter, that was the first time that he asked for certain voices to be silenced on social media? You think that was the first time he did that? I have a feeling he was hired at Twitter because he was well equipped for that job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't worry. He's no longer working for major corporations. Now he's just a contributing editor at Lawfare.
Oh, okay. When you say Jim Baker, I can't help but think about Jim and Tammy Faye.
It's James Baker or Jim Baker. I'll never forget. It was Matt Taibbi, and I can't remember who the female. I might have been Molly Hemingway. I could be wrong on that, but it was the two of them that were getting documents, and neither one of them are huge Trump fans. Like, in fact, they're really not considered Republicans at all. These, Matt Taibbi is kind of more in the Edward Snowden camp side of politics. But they were getting these documents, and they're like, well, it's mentioning other documents, but we're not seeing the other documents, and there's like some black holes, like just missing whole tranches of what they thought they needed to put the dots together. So they're like, everything still feels really circumstantial. Like, the tree fell in the woods, but did anybody cut it down, or did it just naturally fall? You know what I mean? Like, we know the tree fell, like we know millions of people got taken off of Twitter that all seem to have some type of conservative leaning, but who initiated that? Like, it just happened? What? Well, Jim Baker was sitting on those docs. And so she's looking at it and she's like, James Baker, is that Jim? Looks it up. Oh my gosh, the leaker for Comey is working at Twitter. And that's when they let Elon know, hey, the guy that's sending us all this information that you say is going to be so revelatory is literally the guy that did the things with Facebook that now he's covering up. He's the one who told Twitter to censor and cover up when he was general counsel at the FBI. And now he's general counsel here. And he's like, oh, you can't know who at the FBI told Twitter to do the censoring. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I exercise my right to not self-incriminate. So totally wild. Again, this cabal of people, when you look at that resume, he's just hopping from one intelligence spot to another. He's an apparatchik. He's a useful piece in their game that they're playing, and he's been doing it for years and years and years.
He's a good soldier.
I refuse to look at a situation like that, looking at his resume, and say, oh, he was probably like a completely clean whistle till 2016. Or, you know what I mean? Like, no way. I don't believe it for one second. Here's Pam Bondi talking about cleaning up the streets of D.C., because this is, you know, like in a week, they haven't had a murder. It's pretty incredible. I'm telling you, when I was in D.C., every single morning we would wake up in jail, that TV would be onto their local news channel, and it was drive-bys, it was carjackings, it was murders, it was some club had some incident at night. It was non-stop. It was non-stop.
Non-stop gunfire.
Non-stop.
And last night we seized 10 guns. There were 77 arrests, but you're right. Homicides, not been a homicide in a week because of the presence of law enforcement. President Trump being out there today was an incredible inspiration to all of those men and women, state, local, and federal, working hand in hand. It was remarkable. They were so happy to see the president. They are working so hard. I know so many of them now on a first name basis because I've been out there almost every night with them. The president was giving them burgers and pizzas, and they loved it, thanking them because no one in this country will love our law enforcement more than Donald Trump. They see that, they respect it, they appreciate it.
And nothing says love like burgers and pizza.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he goes,
hot dog and pizza party is pretty popular.
Now, I could be wrong when I said this, but the way I understood, he said he's feeding all the cops and taking pictures, and I had the White House make the burgers. The burgers are great. But then I said, we got to have some pizza, but not pizza from the White House. We have to have the best pizza. So we ordered it from Gino's or whatever. Had some pizza there. Anyway, so he fed the first responders, being mostly cops, marshals, DEI, FBI, ATF,
all the personnel,
National Guard, all the guys that are in there preventing crime in DC right now, which is, listen, man, it's pretty impressive. When I was in prison, when I got to DC, the topic always came up because, of course, we're speculating, are we ever going to get out of this place? And it was like, well, Trump's going to get elected. And what if he doesn't get elected? And can he get elected? And we all were very schooled on voter fraud and how that worked. And some people were blackpilled. They're like, they ain't ever going to let him win again. They've already got the elections captured. We're screwed. Take your plea deal, put your head down, do your time. Then you had other people who were like, no, we still got to fight. And people got to fight. We got to continue to raise awareness. So there was kind of this constant tug and pull on what is the right path for January 6ers. And I was often in there. I'm like, listen, as far as I'm concerned, the elections are totally rigged. There's one solution to this. Donald Trump has to have a Julius Caesar moment. He's got to cross the Rubicon. He's got to assume and absorb and take that authority, just like Biden basically did. And then he's got to clean house. He's got to absolutely clean house, but he's got to pay off the plebes. He's got to pay off the peasants. How do you do that? You come into a city like DC and you make the streets clean. That's going to make the black people in that community like him. That's going to take away the instant ability to bring people to protest every little thing, right? You're going to have people that are simpatico with Donald Trump because he got rid of the crime on the streets. Like, he's doing the things that a dictator would need to do to get the buy-in of the people, while at the same time trying to show the people that he's all about justice, and he's not just going to be more cronyism from before, but he's going to use all the same tools that they used to previously persecute. So I was like a big advocate that Donald Trump has to have this Julius Caesar moment. That is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, he got rid of the paid protests, and he's making sure that they don't create a vacuum for real protests.
Yes, exactly. He's upping services. He's dropping crime. He's taking riffraff off the streets, and he's doing it in this grandiose way that nobody can stop.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so grandiose that they're having to bring in extra prosecutors to go after the misdemeanor charges.
And we also found out, Jillian, just recently that U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro has authorized 20 JAG officers, military prosecutors, to prosecute misdemeanors here on the streets of D.C. as part of this surge. So you're seeing a lot of cooperation between the Pentagon with the National Guard, the FBI, which is under the Department of Justice. But that's notable. 20 JAG officials, which are military lawyers, being able to prosecute misdemeanors as part of this operation. Jillian?
Okay. What? The Q folks will tell you the military is the way. The military is the only way. You got to bring the military into the civil courts or get people into military tribunals. Did I just hear that right? 20 JAG officers are going to come do misdemeanor charges. I wonder if the good civil attorneys and criminal attorneys are maybe going to be busy with, I don't know, the Clinton Foundation. Let the JAG guys do the misdemeanors. I thought it would be the other way around. I thought they'd be bringing 20 JAG officers in to look at the Clinton Foundation. Right. But you're bringing them in either way. This is a Julius Caesar moment. This is using every ounce of authority you can to exercise law and order, to have that happen. I'm left giggly, smiley, happy to see hypocrisy starting to come to an end.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the emotions I have knowing that John Bolton's house right now is a whole bunch of papers thrown around the front room.
Fuzzy end of a lollipop.
Fuzzy end of a lollipop. I can't tell you, like, I'm struggling with certain emotions of sympathy and empathy, but at the same time, I'm like super happy and giddy because you're getting what you've been dishing out, right? There's a certain element of all of that. So I have to kind of check myself here, but how do I feel about the military coming in and prosecuting misdemeanors?
Well, I think it's a better look than having them come in to prosecute, the prime offenders, because then it looks more like a military.
Just process them in and out. These are just misdemeanors. No big deal. Nobody cares. Maybe rather than bring in the JAG crew for the big dogs or something, I don't know. But it definitely is interesting. Are they being deputized? Like, there's some mechanisms there that makes you kind of curious. Now, it might work in DC because DC is a federal property. And so there's like better overlap than versus, JAG officers coming to the streets of Seattle to prosecute things. Like, I mean,
I think that there is something to that because of DC's status. There must be something there.
Now, I'm always the one who brings this up. And sometimes what happens is I get painted in the corner because I'm kind of a contrary, when it's law and order time, I'm like, let off the gloves. And then when it's, relax the gloves time, I'm like, nah, bring the law and order. Like, I'm always trying to find the balance and the nuance. Here's what I'm worried about. Okay. I have a low level of trust for law enforcement. I've been at the fuzzy end of that lollipop, okay? I've been at the fuzzy end of the lollipop. I've been the guy that was sitting in prison that didn't think he belonged there, that thought he was totally innocent. I've been this guy standing on the side of the road. I have been this guy where they're like, you're drunk. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And, and they arrest me anyways. No, I'm not. See, this is proof. Sometimes I just misspeak. So this gentleman right here apparently has a hard time talking. And look at what happens to this officer. This is why I worry about the expansion of law enforcement without some checks on that.
How much had to drink today? Not very much. How much is not very much? You don't know? So how much did you have to drink today? Not enough. Not enough? Well, you're unsteady on your feet getting out of the vehicle. Are you going to consent to field sobriety exercises? Absolutely not. I'll do a breathalyzer.
He's 100% disabled. Veterans don't even drink. We don't drink.
Talking like you have a thick tongue, slurring your words because I'm old. You're not going to consent to doing any field sobriety exercises?
Correct.
Field sobriety is a trap, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This officer's already determined he's not field sober.
Right.
There's no point in doing any of this. So this guy's like, I'm not doing any of that. Look, I'm already old. I'm shaky. I'm slurring my speech. I've had a stroke. Right. He's not doing it. But he goes, I'll take a breathalyzer, put it in my mouth. I'll blow. I'll take a breathalyzer. Cop doesn't care.
He said he hadn't had anything to drink or anything like that?
Zero.
Hands behind your back, you're under arrest for DUI. What did you give me a breathalyzer? We're going to when you get to the hospital. She's saying you never drink. You don't drink. So what did you drink today?
A couple of Dr. Peppers. I had water. No alcohol. Give me the damn breathalyzer.
You're going to jail anyway. How much you had to drink today?
That's what I'm worried about.
How much is not very much?
That's what I'm worried about. JAG officers coming in to prosecute misdemeanors.
Yeah.
This happens every day. I want our streets to be safe. I don't know how to bridge the gap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's happening here. There are millions of people that interact with law enforcement, and most of it is just normally totally fine. But that cop decided to arrest that guy who, by the way, the story continues on. No alcohol in his blood, no alcohol on his breast. He slurs his speech.
Yeah.
So what?
The JAG officers, aren't they just going to be, working courtrooms?
I hope. But my point is this: when you give people power, how do you check it? Right? How do you check it? Oh, we're destroying your day. We're taking you into prison. You're going to post a bond. You'll probably have to interact with an attorney. You're going to have to do the judge thing. The whole thing is like, Because why? So I just point this out.
Okay.
I don't want to be a racist that's cloaked as someone that's woke.
Okay.
You said, I don't want to look at this. I'm a peasant. I want to look at fairness. Every instance we want to look at fairness. Did John Bolton keep classified information? Let's get that information out fast. Let's not drag out his trial very long. You've got 70 days. Get an indictment, get that thing going. Do it the right way, right? When you drag it out for years and years and years, and then, 3-4 years after Trump gets a judgment, we find out, oh, they had no evidence.
Well, when you drag it out for years, all you do is you feed the kabuki theater machine.
You feed the kabuki theater. Exactly.
So it's my understanding, hearing the story about the JAG guys, is that they just have a high workload now in DC because they are prosecuting these misdemeanors, and so they're bringing in extra help. That's how I read it.
That's how I read it too.
Okay.
But I'm saying you've now cracked the seal.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You've cracked the seal. And my assumption is JAG attorneys are going to follow directions better than a prosecutor that's, kind of still thinks he's an independent person. You know what I mean? So it becomes a little more chain of commandy. And I'm just expressing, I'm raising my flag of concern.
Okay.
Because there's also this simultaneously going on. Yes, they're doing it in DC. Yes, DC is one of the highest crime rates in the world. Yes, DC is going to require extraordinary measures to clean it up. But
President Trump also indicated that federal action might be coming to other parts of the country.
We're not playing games. We're going to make it safe. And we're going to then go on to other places.
And more of this may be coming to a city near you.
We have focused on Washington, D.C. because it's a federal city under our jurisdiction. But we certainly hope that whether it's Atlanta or anywhere else, people are going to look around and say, we don't have to live like this.
But
I
Trump
agree.
also indicated
100%. We don't have to live like this. I really want us, the people, to be the solution. I don't want to always be relying on some high office elected savior to come in and do the saving. I would like to see the Atlanta police chief have a little find Jesus moment and do some of this themselves. You know what I mean? I'd rather it work through the normal republic mechanisms instead of through a Julius Caesar dictator that, yes, he's getting the job done, but Julius Caesar kind of enabled the empire of Rome that eventually gave us Nero and Caligula. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I know that the United States is probably in this transition from republic to empire. Are we seeing the same thing? And again, we write our own history, but just knowing the patterns, it's like, I don't know how I feel about federal law enforcement on domestic streets.
Brown shirts coming to a town near you.
Brown shirts coming to a town near you. Now, I'm not giving into the left's narrative that ICE is Gestapo, blah. No, I'm like, the best thing is when all the rules make sense and they're enforced equally on everybody.
Yeah.
And we're all playing on the same set of rules. I don't see that.
Well, I don't see that in cities that have a sanctuary status either.
I have a broken part of my brain where I'm like, we're either equal or we're not. So if it's a rule, it has to be a rule for everybody. If even one person breaks it, I'll break it too. I'll break it second. I won't break it first. I will not be the first person to break a rule. It's not in my nature. But if somebody else breaks a rule and it goes unpunished or enforced, that's not a rule anymore.
Yeah.
To me, that's how my brain works. I'm hardwired that way. If we're in a fenced area and someone breaks out the fence and they're immediately punished, I ain't ever leaving the fence. If they break out, go do their thing, come back, it's acknowledged that they broke out, came back, then they go out again, I'm going out too. If a rule is not enforceable, it's not a rule, and it has to be enforceable on everyone, or it shouldn't be enforced on anyone. That is how I believe it. Eric Schmidt, senator from Missouri, used to be the attorney general, and he's the one who went out and discovered the Missouri v. Biden case, which got to the kind of exposed through discovery how the federal government was utilizing the social media companies to do the censoring.
Everybody saw in 2021 and 2022, this was called a conspiracy theory that conservatives were being, throttled or deplatformed. And we had seen enough. Jen Psaki's at the podium talking about flagging things for Facebook. They floated this ridiculous idea of a disinformation governance board. Remember what that the Mary Poppins-like figure who was going to be the head of it. And so we said, you know what, there is something here. There's something here. So we filed a lawsuit in May of 2022, Missouri versus Biden, and we named not the big tech companies, we named the government agencies. We named Biden, we named the FBI, we named all these agencies we thought were a part of it. And we did something kind of strategic. We talk about it in the book, Steve. We didn't seek the injunction, which is to get the government to stop the bad behavior right away. We sought discovery first, and that ended up being a key decision. So what did that mean? We got thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of emails, text messages. We found out there were secret portals between high-ranking government officials and high-ranking executives at Twitter and Facebook, coordinating their efforts, the collusion that was happening, the coercion that was happening. We took the deposition of Anthony Fauci, and you can read about that in the book, which was wild. We took the deposition, interestingly, of Elvis Chan, who was the FBI agent in Northern California who was pre-bunking the Hunter Biden laptop story. Turns out he was having weekly meetings, monthly meetings, then weekly meetings, telling them to look out for a Russian hack and leak operation in October. And Yoel Roth, who's like this integrity guy at Twitter, who's left-leaning, even had an affidavit saying, yeah, he was talking specifically about Hunter Biden. So the rot that existed, CISA, which is an agency most people have never really heard of. We took the deposition of Brian Scully, who was talking about, yeah, they turned that against the American people to flag. They were outsourcing to Stanford and to the University of Washington. So the punchline here is we uncovered this leviathan of agencies that were set against the American people to censor their speech. The First Amendment doesn't allow the government to do it, and you shouldn't be able to outsource that either to these big tech behemoths, which is exactly what they were doing. And I think it's the most important free speech case in the history of our country. We talk about it in the book, and we can't let this stuff ever happen again. And I think the lesson here is the playbook is, if you got the guts and you fight back and you got a hunch, we ought to use the court system to expose this corruption. And that's what we were able to do.
Yeah, to the extent that the court system functions. Debbie B on YouTube says, know the patterns. If you don't know history, you may well repeat it. Yes. I am not against, there's nothing that Trump's done that I'm like, I'm anti that. I just am recognizing these are tools. We're empowering our government with certain tools. They have certain tools that they were empowered with previously, like the Patriot Act and stuff like that. Are they going to repeal them? Are they going to continue using those tools? You've got, clearly the government had an ability to censor speech and coordinate with the social media companies. Are they still doing it, or are they not? Did Trump look at that and go, oh, that's a nice, pretty tool, I think I'll do it, right? Or did he go, no, I reject that in principle on its face? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. But I do know that my kids have to live here. And I do know that I've got a lot of life left. So I've been on that fuzzy end of the lollipop. I just want to see with clear eyes. Here's Tulsi Gabbard confirming again. So not only in Missouri v. Biden, he said it was thousands of pages. This collusion wasn't like a couple times Anthony Fauci reached out to Twitter and was like, hey, RFK Jr. said something about vaccines. Do you know?
It sounds like they had like a Teams portal set up.
Exactly. And they were down to, in fact, there was one email that I remember back when these were all being dumped. It was like some high-ranking FBI official was like, I need you to take out MJ Truth Q now. And it was like he had 300 followers.
Right.
And it was like, what? You're deleting a retweet account of some obscure name. We must go. It's like they were that peculiar. High-ranking people, they weren't just looking at accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers. In fact, there's a lot of people that say if you get over 100,000 followers, you're almost guaranteed to be an asset of some sort, right? A lot of people believe that. I wouldn't say otherwise, when you have kind of the come out of nowhere guys. We're out here broadcasting an hour and a half to 2 hours almost every day. Think about this for a second, Ron. Yeah. I'm going to feed your conspiracy theory.
Okay.
We broadcast 5 days a week, an hour and a half plus every single day.
Yep.
We cross post on multiple platforms.
Oh yeah.
We're consistent. We do it between 6 and 6:39 every morning.
Yep.
Typically closer to 6:30. Today, 6:38, 6:39. Okay? We're consistent in how we go out.
Yeah.
And yet our audience, while it's growing, is relatively flat.
Yes.
If I would say this, if you took all of our episodes, started a ghost channel that had no association with my laptop or your IP address or our personal names, and you posted all these videos, I think our audience would be much, much larger.
I think it would mushroom and grow at a much more normal rate.
We would be in the algorithm. We would be in it. There is there are channels out there that produce a fraction of the volume of content we do. Now, 10 episodes, 20 episodes, 50 episodes, you can kind of forgive the show being smaller. But at this point, it's like, we're not even in the algorithm. You know, we're picking off listeners one at a time at the coffee shop. And you know what I mean? Like half the listeners of the show know us personally. I love it. I invite all of you guys here, but I am fairly confident, and you're extremely confident, that we are limited in our reach because of this.
Yes.
Right? That we are not being pushed. So again, it comes upon you, the listener. You share the show. We're peasants. I recognize that they don't want our voice heard. Why? Because potentially we might, judge hypocrisy.
And we're trying to break through that algorithm just based on volume and just consistency, and it really isn't working.
Well, and we can tweak this and tweak that and do this. And, if anybody wants to volunteer to help the show, make clips, whatever, just contact us. We need help. Like we're a 2-man show here. And we're trying to do the best we can. We're not AI, clearly. But that's what's going on. Like they've been puppeting these social media companies for years and years. And, now Elon's in charge at X. And now Trump said that there's no more censorship. And well, really? Was it that quick? Or you just flip a switch? Or are these people embedded? Because, James Baker went from the FBI to Twitter. And we thought, oh, great that Elon bought Twitter. He's still got James Baker hanging around. How many more people like that we don't know their names? Tulsi just pulled the security clearances of 37 people that are involved in the grand conspiracy. I'd never heard of a one of them.
Right.
And I've been reading this stuff daily for 10 years. I'd never heard of a one of them.
Yep.
Imagine how many people are involved in these companies that are still censoring and still just know whether anybody tells me or not. Conservatives, ghost, or shadow ban. So this is Tulsi Gabbard confirming more of kind of what we know, but also adding a little bit more to it.
First and important to tell the truth. We see in too many cases, not only in ODNI, but across the intelligence community, that is not the case.
What?
That was let's go back to the beginning.
This is a first and important step that we took yesterday in announcing what I've called ODNI 2.0. This organization that I lead was created in the wake of the egregious intelligence failures around the Islamist terrorist attack on 9/11. It was created around recognizing.
That's new. The Islamist terrorist attack on 9/11.
Huh.
That's a new phrase.
Yeah, it is.
That's coming right at the religion of peace.
Yeah.
Do you know the scandal around that whole Islam is a religion of peace? Do you know when Bush said that?
It is.
It was a huge scandal.
Okay.
So Bush, in order to placate the Islamic world after 9/11, goes, Islam is a religion of peace. And they're like, we are literally at war with Islam. You should call it not the war on terror, but the war on Islam. Like the Hawks were like, this isn't a war on terror. This is a war on Islam itself.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting that they've done this little change. I mean, this is kind of an important thing, the Islamic radical attack on 9/11.
In hindsight, what happened with that manufactured.
By the way, good authority. Many people have said it. John Brennan converted to Islam when he was based over in Qatar.
Wow.
Like full on became Islamic. Like has been to Mecca, which they don't allow foreigners to go to. He was taken there by the House of Saud to go visit it. So John Brennan, yes. Now,
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't always mention someone's religion because we kind of think that that's your personal private business, and
right.
It is. But I'm not the only one saying that about John Brennan. Like it's kind of like this well-known thing that Mike Benz to many others have said. John Brennan's like really into Islam, like converted to it.
Kind of like Obama.
Intelligence of Iraq WMDs under President Bush, in order to have an oversight element across the intelligence community that roots out that politicization, that ensures that the intelligence that's being collected is being integrated. The left hand is talking to the right hand, and ultimately that the president of the United States is getting intelligence products that are timely, that are relevant, and that are apolitical and objective. So what I found in my organization that I'm leading currently was that there were a lot of pockets where the deep state actors were very entrenched and were politicizing their centers or their positions either against the American people, using their authorities to force censorship on Americans, for example, under the Biden administration, who dissented with Biden's policies, or those who essentially were in positions where they're creating intelligence products and inserting their own partisan political opinions and views in the intelligence documents. It's very simple. The mandate the intelligence community has is to find the truth and to tell the truth. We see in too many cases, not only in ODNI, but across the intelligence community, that is not the case.
So they're lying to us. Did you know the intelligence agencies lie?
Confirmed.
I think it's in the mission statement of the CIA.
Yeah.
We are professional lying liars. Okay.
That checks.
So this is a little bit of a different topic, but Judge Gorsuch joined a majority opinion yesterday. There was a Supreme Court decision that allowed Trump to continue to terminate grants and employees and blah, blah, blah. It's another one of these injunctions to prevent Trump from doing what he's clearly allowed to do under his Article 2 authorities. So Gorsuch jumped in on this decision to write a additional decision here. Before we say that, John Attacks had a wonderful visit with Tiny Taylor this week. Raced F1 cars, open and closed water parks, state fair, and ice cream every night. Too bad we can't do the same with our favorite politicians. When he says Tiny Taylor, that's my dad. He has my son. He's got my son on a 8-year-old trip is what they're doing. Anyways, cool. Okay, so Justice Gorsuch says this. And he joined this majority decision rather than just, make his vote because he's really slapping down the lower court. For these reasons, I concur in the court's decision to stay the district court's judgment, vacating the grant terminations. If the district court's failure to abide by California, which is the name of another case, were a one-off, perhaps it would not be worth writing to address it. But 2 months ago, another district court tried to compel compliance with a different order that this court had stayed. Department of Homeland Security versus DVD. Still, another district court recently diverged from one of this court's decisions, even though the case at hand did not differ in any pertinent respect from one this court had decided. So, this is now the third time in a matter of weeks this court, the Supreme Court, has had to intercede in a case squarely controlled by one of its precedents. All these interventions should have been unnecessary, but together they underscore a basic tenet of our judicial system. Whatever their own views, judges are duty-bound to respect the hierarchy of the federal court system created by the Constitution and Congress. He's basically telling the lower courts, stop injecting your politics. We've clearly decided these matters. The Article 2 is extremely clear, and we're not going to deviate from our decision because, this time it's about immigrants, or this time it's about USAID employees, or this time it's about friends of the court. Not doing it. That's a slap down right there. I don't care what your politics are. Get in line, follow the precedent. You don't have discretion. These are not novel issues here. I thought that's pretty good. Yeah. Right. The other thing, too, with that is I looked at that and I immediately thought, do you know how many times lower courts go against precedent? I've talked to, at this point, probably close to 100 people involved in serious criminal matters that have Supreme Court or even appeals court precedent that clearly sides with them.
In some case would exonerate the person completely.
Yeah. Habeas corpus decisions, all litigated. Okay, if your habeas corpus is violated, you get out for jail free card. You've got time frames on how long certain things should take. Those have all been decided by the Supreme Court. Your right to privacy, your right to not to have compelled search and seizure. Fruit of the poisonous tree. There's a January 6er that's sitting in prison right now named Dan Wilson. I call on anybody and everybody to raise your voice heard. He needs to be let out. Here's what happened. He lived in Chicago. In 2020, allegedly, because of the violence in the streets, because of the lack of law and order, he armed himself. He had felons he's a felon from the 1990s. He's now much older than that. Okay. He armed himself in 2020 and inside of his home, there were some guns. Okay. I'll be completely honest with you. There's multiple cases working their way from the courts to decide if felons are even actually able to be barred from owning guns. Amy Coney Barrett herself wrote a dissent one time essentially saying that there is no world in which a felon can be prevented from self-defense, including owning a gun, right? So this is not like this novel thing. So he has a gun in his home. He gets raided for January 6th. They find the guns, goes to prison for January 6th, but then he gets this extra gun charge, felon in possession of a gun. There were many other J6ers who got this, by the way. Many. I know a couple of them personally. They had guns in their homes and they had prior convictions and they shouldn't have had guns. They all got pardoned. They're all sitting at home today. But Dan Wilson, because the judge that decided it was not one of the DC judges that finally let everybody out, some other judge, they're calling him the wicked judge of the West or whatever, decided Dan had to go back to prison on the gun charge. So Dan's sitting in prison on a gun charge that only existed. Now, whether you think it's right or wrong that he owned or didn't own a gun, that's for you to decide. But I'll tell you this, they entered his home under false pretenses that he was an insurrectionist and he was trying to overthrow the government. They broke down his door, they raided his house, and they found those guns. That whole thing has been quashed. It was pardoned. It was lawfare. It was an inappropriate use of authority and power. And so therefore, everything downstream of that should be fruit of the poisonous tree. It's that simple. If your warrant's not accurate, it doesn't matter what you found. Now you're even more screwed. You can't use it. He should be let go immediately. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Nobody cares that he had guns in his house. Do you know how many other people get caught on the street with guns that are felons and just get let go because, you know, too much paperwork or just because it's DC and everybody's got a gun? I mean, I think the felon with a gun stuff, we got to take a look at that as a society.
So, you know, I will say one thing about this, the argument that you're proposing and you put forward. It's the same argument that I think Democrats and left-leaning people would say that is being used for ICE right now to round up illegals.
Okay, explain that.
Well, you go to Home Depot to arrest somebody there, and in that roundup gets caught up a bunch of other people that end up having illegal status, and then they get deported. But they weren't the targets.
But they were illegal, right?
Correct.
So they were the target.
Correct. But they weren't there to round up illegals. They were there because of, you know, some shoplifting or whatever. But they end up, you know, deporting some guys that get rounded up because of they were
guilty
looking
by
into something
association,
else.
but they are guilty though, right?
Sure. But so is this guy. He's guilty of having guns when he's not supposed to have them.
I look at it this way. If it's a properly executed warrant and everything's fair, then yeah, it's not proof of the poisonous tree. They came into your house and then they saw guns. And that's a problem. I don't have any problem with that. And I talked to a couple guys. I'm like, dude, you knew
But
you
there are a lot of people that are saying that these roundups where they're going to arrest the guy or look for the guy at the Costco or the Home Depot, they're saying that that's a trumped up charge just so they can get in there so that they can find the illegals so that they can deport them.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying the same thing.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. You're saying the same thing.
I'm saying the same thing, right? Like, I don't have a problem with how the law is supposed to function.
Okay.
But the thing is you can't cherry pick. So, okay, you're arrested, you're a terrorist, you've got guns, you've got prior charges, you stack all the charges, you go through the process, but then we find out we get pardoned. So for one thing, that quashes all of it anyways. The second thing is then we find out all the information we're finding out about targeting and It's like, oh, this is all clearly an incorrect warrant in the first place. It's all fruit of the poisonous tree. Mm-hmm. And here's the crazy thing. The precedent has been set. I could rattle off, but simply not to make their cases a highlight, I could rattle off a minimum of 3 people I know personally who were not allowed to possess guns that had guns on the day their houses were raided. And they are at home right now with their families, and Dan is not.
Okay.
So the precedent was already set. Why is Dan being treated differently?
I don't know.
If they were all in, then it'd be like, oh man, that sucks. Right. But in this case, Dan is being treated separately. So I don't have any reason for that. But
all right.
I think that if you're going to enforce rules, you enforce them uniformly. That's my idea. And we should have the least amount of rules possible. That's the other thing, too. It's not like we want to make a bunch of rules and live in a totalitarian state, but whatever. So Bill Pulte was on with Laura Ingraham, and he's talking about the Adam Schiff scandal, along with these other Letitia James and now this Cook lady on the Federal Reserve Board. I love how we're learning all these new people's names, right? And how they've been involved in mortgage fraud and hypocrisy.
Well, it seems like this is a contagious disease, okay? Because now the Federal Reserve Governor, Lisa Cook, is under pressure to resign due to allegations that she may have engaged in mortgage fraud. Bill, tell us about this. I mean, someone who has a say in the Fed rate and what that's doing to mortgages across the country. I mean, this is crazy stuff. She could be potentially abusing the system again. No one's guilty until proven.
Laura, I'll tell you, she has a very big problem. She has a situation where she claimed primary residency on a condo that she bought in Atlanta. I mean, this is supposed to be somebody who's entrusted with the public good, who's supposed to be looking after interest rates. And I believe it's blatant and massive mortgage fraud. I believe that there will be a criminal investigation. I'll leave that to the DOJ, whether they do that or not. But I would anticipate seeing her be prosecuted and criminally charged for mortgage fraud, just based on what I've seen. You know, I refer people every day to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice prosecutes cases like this all the time, Laura. And whether it's the Schiff case or the Letitia James case or this case or all the other cases that we refer, this Cook one is not going away, and she can laugh all she wants, but the law will catch up with her.
Yeah, she responded to this today saying she doesn't have any intention of being, quote, bullied to step down from her position because of some questions raised in a tweet. I do intend, she said, to take any questions about my financial history seriously, and I'm gathering accurate info to provide the facts. She also mentioned that this all occurred before she was a member of the Board of Governors at the Federal Reserve. Would the timing matter?
No, it wouldn't matter. First of all, she's within the statute of limitations. Second of all, she received a benefit while she's been on the Federal Reserve Board. And I would actually argue that her statement tonight, I think that that's going to be a big problem for her criminally. This is just my view. She lied, in my view, in her statement tonight because she said that the first time she heard about it was through my tweet. She didn't hear about it from my tweet. There's no way. She doesn't follow me on Twitter. And last night, Bloomberg contacted, according to their story, her and me for comment. So I think this lady is a professional liar. She shouldn't be at the Federal Reserve. She's going to resign, in my view. And if she doesn't resign, I do believe that the president has cause to fire her. And that will be up to the president whether he decides to do that or not.
Now, the president has the authority to fire anyone he wants to in the executive branch. Unelected officials shouldn't have this much say and power over the lives of the American people. I think it's...
So,
amen.
So she's in charge of setting rates for mortgages, but she lied on mortgage applications twice to get a lower rate. Letitia James is doing the same thing. She prosecuted Donald Trump for overvaluing his real estate property.
I didn't know who Lisa Cook was, but I was when we had her picture up, I thought it was Letitia James.
No.
I was like, you've got to have a side by side here.
Then you've got Adam Schiff doing the same thing.
I know.
So, listen, I was in prison with some people that had mortgage fraud checked off on their list of accomplishments. So, yeah. I think that the mortgage fraud thing, it's kind of like Al Capone with taxes. Like, I think it's going to be what takes him down. I think in a lot of other areas,
it's going to be a hook for
there's
sure.
There's no prosecutorial immunity for Letitia James on your personal mortgage. You can't go, well, I was trying to act in the best interest of the state of New York. You can't do that. Right. I think Adam Schiff can't be like, it's classified, it's in a SCIF. He can't hide behind his immunity as a legislature for free speech to lie and say what he wants. When you lied on a mortgage application, and I have a feeling this is probably a little more prevalent than you think. This guy right here is the Kansas City Fed Press Schmidt. So this is Kansas City Federal Reserve president, and he was asked to comment on this Cook situation. Kind of had an interesting response.
We have responsibilities as professionals inside the Federal Reserve. I'm sure she'll handle matters as she needs to handle them.
Is that a serious thing to do, to write primary residence on two different mortgages?
Let me say this. It's definitely part of the application.
Yeah.
But I also would say if you think about how huge that application is, maybe we could start thinking about how do we make it less paperwork intensive as we go forward. Do you worry?
So Polte tweets out, what a weird response.
Yeah.
Oh, she was overwhelmed with all the boxes to check, and she had to write her name like 8 or 9 times.
Oh, man.
You realize, everyday Americans have to navigate through FHA mortgages and VA
these
mortgages.
Freaking complicated forms.
So complicated.
Overwhelming.
If we could just Real ID, we could use AI to scan your social
Just use
media,
my eye scan.
You could just come in pre-approved. Like, you don't have to fill out anything. We'll just know what kind of loan you qualify for. Like, why complicate things with paperwork?
We'll just send you the money.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find the funds in your account.
These people are dirty. Check his mortgages right now. Check his mortgages. These forms are complicated. Check his mortgages. What a weird response.
Oh, I'm sure I checked a box I shouldn't have.
Dude, these people are in trouble. Well, if the forms are so complicated, maybe we should get rid of them. You sound like Taylor Jonatakis. Don't make rules you can't enforce. Don't put a box on there unless it's important to do. Now, my mode of operation now is I don't fill out forms. I don't fill out government forms.
No.
I mean, 1776 Live, I talk about this. It's almost humorous. I don't fill out forms. Can I talk to the person who's going to receive this form? They're free to fill it out with my verbal things. I don't put information in boxes if I don't feel like I want to disclose that information. Like, this is the hilarious thing is just because there's a spot for you to put your social doesn't mean you have to write it in there. Did you know it's against the law for anyone to request your social from you? Did you know that?
No, I did not.
It is a felony offense for me to ask you for your social and for me to put anything contingent upon you giving me your social in order to render services. It's a felony offense. So when I put it on an application and I'm like, oh, I can't let you into the doctor's office, or I can't let you do this, or I can't do anything with you without your social, it's a felony offense for you to demand it. But yet people do it all the time. No, stop. Okay. Now, there are certain instances where a social is required for those services, but they can't demand it of you. In fact, there's this whole thing in mortgages where the mortgage broker who's asking for your social isn't actually entitled to it. You're supposed to be able to go through the whole application process and then only voluntarily provide the social security number to the underwriter who's essentially working directly with the lender. Since they're the ones you're in contract with, you can avoid giving your mortgage broker your social security completely and force them to process the application to underwriting without it. And then you can call and secretly give it to underwriting, right? That's how it's supposed to be. Good luck getting your mortgage broker to buy off on that. Because, well, the software won't even, I can't even hit enter and calculate until you give me your social. It's a required field. It's a required field. Yeah, in your software, not by law. Right? All right, it's time for us to jump over to private. We've got 2 more videos. We're going to be talking about Biden and his mental health cover-up, the auto pens and the pardons. Some information broke yesterday on that, and we're going to be sharing that. It was a big day yesterday. Trump won a lawsuit. This morning, John Bolton was getting raided. We've already moved on because John Bolton's like that little of importance. Like, who cares? By 10 a.m. today, like, no one's going to care about John Bolton anymore. All right. So with that, we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. And Pony Boy, you said, we had viewers, no ads. Yes, today was brought to you ad-free by leftbehindandwithout.org. So don't forget to go and visit them. All right, and we're going to jump over to private, talk to our great Rumble listeners there for a few more minutes, and then we'll talk to everybody again tomorrow. Bye. Pew.